Welcome to another edition of Strange New Pod. I'm your acting captain, MC Frodis, along with the best bridge crew this side of the Black Museum. Vice Admiral Eric is here.
Yay!
And taking his genitals are a red line.
Good Lord.
Sub-Commander Giraffe is here, ready with the Bengarian phlegm shots.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
The best of the blah, blah, blah quadrant.
And finally, Fleet Admiral Julian is here, hoping he never crosses paths with Gamer691. So how are we doing, you guys?
King of the universe here.
King of space.
King of space.
So good.
King of
I love
space.
Black Mirror. I love it so much. And I think me and you are the only ones that love it.
Yeah,
I think so,
we were
yeah.
having the conversation just before that I can't psychologically watch Black Mirror. It sends me spiraling, and I can't. My psyche can't afford that right now. So, yeah.
This is going to make a very short Strange New Loop once we get to
Yeah,
it.
That's all
Just
the
me and
four
you
episodes
talk-
I've watched.
We're going to talk
I
about
have
it
an
all our
answer.
episodes we like.
I have an answer.
So, obviously, as we're talking about Black Mirror, this week we're doing something completely different. With Star Trek on hiatus, we're looking at some Trek adjacent content. This is a deep dive into the Black Mirror episode U.S.S. Callister. We're going to take a look at how this episode sets up Trek, its fandom, nerd culture in general, and gives that Black Mirror cynicism. But first, Julian, you're usually in my seat, so you don't usually get to do the patrons. So why don't you thank our collective members at the Ready Room level and above?
I will, and I have your outline, MC. You wrote the outline. You did a good job.
I've not
Thank
read
you for reading
so-
it.
Of course you haven't. What's new? Eric didn't either. Thank you so much, everyone. That includes Simon Stager, Jeff Reeve, Mariah Gossett, Tallulah, Jen Stein, Tina Alexander, Joe Saporito, Noe Santos, Kang Hui, Takako Nagumo, Fernando Nogales, SMK, Laura Linderman, Colin Davidson, Jesco, Michael Graham, Emily and Travis, Gildara, Cassie, Nanar, Maggie Light, Tyrannocalicus, Wayne Ritz, Scone of Arc, Sean, Jay Howard, Anna Yerdadon, Mehalani Uchiyama, Matt Harker, Davey Willett, Tara Pollen, Slope 74, Rude Parakeet, Joshua Miller, Aaron W, Lanky Guy, Carl Angoli, Michael Kwan, Meredith, Caitlin, Elizabeth Dean, Jim McMahon, Kiltchuck, Sedano 317, Puka Hair, 3 Fry Short, Cat Tippe, Tripping the Realert over a Pineapple, Sean Manning, Asher CBF, Chris Waterman, RHCB, Martin Simpson, Norman Buckwald, David Prime Hildenbrand, Taryn J. Robinson, Ensign Lexapro, Eric the Red Trouble, Jamie Roberts, and Shatterhand 2049. Thank you.
And a big thank you to our amazing bad rolls, our executive producers, Simon Stager, Commander Chris, the Chief Ernesto Castagna, Chris Waterman, and Tara Poland.
Woo!
Brup.
So let's get into some news. So first of all, Julian and I just got back from Trek Long Island. And
AKA the Tiki Bar.
AKA the Tiki Bar. Yeah. We had a very good time with a lot of you guys. There were a lot of collective members there, and it was awesome. So just thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us. It was just great.
It was awesome. I want to say a big thank you to everyone that brought booze and literally set up a tiki bar with an inflatable pineapple, like the entire thing, and for the red directive daiquiris, because no one's ever gonna forget those. And just thank you to everybody who stopped at our table, bought stickers, bought your Moopsies MC,
Yep.
your beautiful prints, your Cerritos one was a hit. And everyone who came to our panels as well. It was just
Yeah.
a great weekend. We will be there next year. For those wondering, and I know Giraffe is one of them in a good way. Huge improvement
Oh yeah.
over last year, like so much. So that's pretty awesome. Oh, it was a cactus, not a pineapple. Well, it'll always be a pineapple to me.
Well, those
Yeah.
red daiquiri were good, huh?
Dude, you don't know. They were
They were
something.
deadly.
But then Maggie made new ones, and they weren't as strong because people, I think, fake complained even though they liked them, and then I had to put tequila in them. So it was fun.
I didn't
They were
fake
delicious.
complain.
I thought they were wonderful.
They were great.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so more news, Julian.
Yes, I have 2 really big announcements. I think they're big. I think they're fun. First, on April, we're in June, so not April.
Like
On-
April?
I know.
Wow.
Next
I know.
year.
It's next year, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Not
next
gonna remember
year.
that.
No, June 21st, we are in the middle of our Star Trek Prodigy Season 1 rewatch on Discord. We have a really fun announcement to make with that. So on Friday, June 21st, executive producer and writer Aaron Waltke is going to join us on our Discord to talk about the episode Preludes and also do an Ask Me Anything AMA following the episode. So that's an official thing, like Paramount endorsed. Really fun. So look for news on that and graphics and all the stuff on our socials for details. It's going to be a really good time. And then announcement number 2. I'm ridiculously excited about this one. So going back to Trek Long Island, MC and I had the absolute pleasure of hosting the Strange New Worlds, Exploring Strange New Worlds panel with Melissa Navia and Yutina Badaki. And it was awesome. And I was really hoping that we would be able to find a way to get it to everybody. Well, I'm super, super stoked to announce that our episode next week is going to be that panel. I need to thank first one of our amazing Patron Collective members, Dana, for recording the whole thing. She sat in the front row and recorded the entire thing, and the video is awesome. And then Matthew Kaplowitz, who is our dear friend from Trek Untold and was also in charge of all of the podcast. He did more than that. He was like in charge of content.
He was in
year,
charge
basically.
of programming.
Yeah, he was in charge of programming at Trek Long Island this year. And the panel was professionally recorded, and he was able to send me the audio, and I was able to sync it with the video. So we'll have an audio and video podcast premiering at our normal time next week, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I can't wait for everybody to see it because I thought it was, I'm tooting my own horn and patting both of our backs. Like, I thought it went really well and was an awesome panel. And I'm glad that people who weren't there are going to be able to experience it and see it because it was awesome. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm so excited. People are going to be able to see that panel. You'll be able to see like the deer in headlight looks on my face. I'm sure. I was so nervous.
It was a lot of fun.
It was.
I
though.
also apparently created Strange New Worlds.
You did.
I did.
Yeah. That's not as bad as the thing that I said during the introduction.
No, that was great, but we'll let people who haven't seen that
We'll let
experience
people-
that for themselves.
That's a little tease.
Yep.
So a big thanks to our friends at Heroes and Villains, who nobody's wearing one of their shirts today.
I have
came-
news,
But they-
though.
Ooh.
You have news? Oh,
I do,
Giraffe.
but I can do after Heroes and Villains because we're bad ambassadors.
We are bad ambassadors.
we are bad ambassadors.
Oh, I do actually. Hey,
You
I
have
my
something.
mailbag because I just come back from a
Hey!
weekend.
Oh, that thing's
so it's my
beautiful.
weekender
That's gorgeous.
bag. It's gorgeous. It has like look at this. It's great because you can fit everything you need for. Sorry, I'm gonna move my mic. Everything you need to for a weekend. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's nerdy, but like.
It's subtle nerdy.
It's subtle nerdy. Like if you know, you know. But it's also a very good quality bag, and I do use it. If you have seen me for a weekend here and there, I use it all the freaking time. It has so many pockets. So yeah, here you go. See, good girl.
Yeah.
Nice.
And Heroes and Villains has lots of Star Wars stuff. They have Star Trek stuff, obviously. X-Men, just all of the nerd things that you could possibly want. And use our code STRANGE and you can get 20% off your first order.
Indeed.
My
Giraffe?
news. Yeah.
Yes.
So just a reminder that I'm a guest at Baycon the first weekend of July. So it's coming there. It's in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'm freaking out.
Ooh.
I will be moderating Star Trek and STEM panels, and Baycon is hosting a lot of STEM panels to promote women and non-binary folks in STEM. So if you're around in the Bay Area, come say hi. It's gonna be fun, and it's a small-ish con, so we can go and have drinks. Come say hi.
Hey.
Yeah.
You're paying the drinks. I'm not paying the drinks. Just putting that out there.
Fair.
Yeah.
MC, I have one more thing.
Okay.
People are talking about it in the chat, and there's people who probably haven't seen it yet. So,
Oh,
Oh,
Flex.
yeah.
y'all, this is fucking cool. Like, thank you again, because this was a gift at Trek Long Island, and
for people listening to the pod, it's a plate.
yes, thank you, Giraffe. I am
Yeah.
showing our plate that we have been immortalized on, and it's just so cool. I will never get over that. So anyway, that's it.
Yeah, I need to send out plates to everyone else.
You do.
So that's all of the news. So we'll move on to the strange new loop. Okay, so this could be an interesting strange new loop. since
Yeah,
only,
it is.
So me and Giraffe are gonna
half of
have
us can really
or
answer it.
me and MC are gonna have like a 10-minute talk about
Yeah.
Black Mirror.
But since we're talking about Black Mirror, which is a series we don't usually talk about, I wanted to give people a chance to say, aside from this one, what their favorite episode of the series was and why.
All right, I'll go first. So, Black Mirror has everything I love in TV because if you know me, I'm a big fan of the Twilight Zone. I actually did all my wedding picture in a Twilight Zone theme place, just to give you an idea. Because I love these TV, these allegories that are like veiled metaphor for societal problems, and Black Mirror should be everything I love. Well, it turns out that I really like when I'm not involved in this. So like the
That's
60s
fair.
is great because I'm like, look at these like poor people. Like 50 years ago, we thought they had solved racism by like desegregating water fountains. So I like that, having that buffer of
Distance.
time,
Yeah.
between me and the episode. That's why I like Star Trek also. And I feel Black Mirror, I started watching it, so I watched I think the first 3 episodes. And the first one, I was like, I get it, but I think it's shock value, and I was not super into it. The second one, I got it. I thought it was great. The third one, I got it too. But like at the third one, I was like, it's making me depressed. It's giving
That's
me
totally
anxiety
fair.
to watch that thing, and so I stopped. I didn't have the eagerness of each week being like, I want to know, because also it's so episodic,
Mhm.
and yeah, so I went back to watch U.S.S. Callister because everybody was like, there's a Star Trek episode, you need to watch it. So I went and watched it when it, like, season 5, at the end of season 5, I think I watched it. And I've not watched other episodes of of Black Mirror, but I do think it's a great series. I just yeah, I can't handle it. I'm weak. So I think my favorite episode outside of U.S.S. Callister is without a doubt another episode in Black Mirror. I've not watched it yet. I'll take your recommendations.
I'll go next because I'm kind of in the same boat as Giraffe. This is the first episode of Black Mirror I've ever watched, which is hilarious because ever since Black Mirror has been on Netflix, I've wanted to watch it and just never got around to it.
Mhm.
So now I will, because I really liked U.S.S. Callister as much as it was a complete mind fuck. It was a great mind fuck. Yeah, I'm super stoked to watch more. I didn't realize how long the episodes are. I think it's a
They're
pretty
very long.
big commitment.
They're like more than an hour, no?
They are. Some of them
Yeah,
are.
they're
Some of
close
them
to,
are
like,
like
an hour and a
47
half, yeah.
minutes. But then again, like I just binged the hell out of For All Mankind, and each one of those episodes is like an hour and
Yeah,
15
but
minutes,
it's not
so I could do that.
episodic.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
you-
I mean, Black Mirror's not episodic; it's an anthology. So the thing is, an hour and a half episode, you just treat it like it's a movie and just watch one episode and then go on and do other shit.
And
Yeah,
sometimes
you don't
they
really,
start to
you don't
connect.
really binge it.
You can.
You
I
can.
mean, I binge
I
it,
do too.
so-
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a binger. I need things to binge.
Yeah,
I will
same.
put a thing and I will like saw at the same time and just like watch something on TV. The problem is like Black Mirror will make me depressed.
Yeah.
I can't
for
binge
sure.
watch that.
There are some seasons that you can't watch in a row. Like the
Mhm.
first
Yeah.
one. The first one's a hard one to watch in a row. But
A really good example of that is when I first played through Horizon Zero Dawn. When I was done playing that game, I was depressed for like 2 weeks because of the world they built and like the revelation at the end of the game, and I was just like, this sucks. Like yeah.
because you know it could
Like,
happen. That's the sad.
Yeah,
that-
that's the thing.
Yeah.
And apparently Black Mirror does that, and I don't know if I
in
wanna
every
go
episode.
through- I don't know if I
In
wanna
every
go through that.
episode.
In every episode.
Yeah, because like, yeah, man, there's just some games like that that are out there too that are just blow me away. Like, dude, Last of Us is a great example as well.
Mm.
Oh, I don't. I played
Yeah.
the game. I refuse to watch the show.
I
it's so good.
watched. Yeah, the show's so fucking good. But
It
again,
really
yeah,
is.
Emotional damage.
Mm.
yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna slowly take my time with Black Mirror.
That's fair.
Hi, MC.
Hi, Eric.
It's funny because on Geeks with Kids we did a whole episode where we just brought in our favorite episodes and we talked for like 4 hours about it. So I'm gonna try and narrow it down. San Junipero from
Chance.
San
Yeah.
Junipero. Yeah, is one of my favorite episodes, if not my favorite episode, because it's very unlike all of the other Black Mirror episodes.
Mhm.
It's hopeful by the end of it, which is, that sort of ruined it. But it's a beautiful episode. It's such a well written and well acted. Mackenzie Davis is in it, and she's a wonderful actress. Other than that, like The History of You or like Archangel, these are all like
Mhm.
phenomenal. Archangel, Julian, as a parent, will fuck you
Oh,
up.
Oh, it'll fuck you up so
Why,
bad.
That
why
is
would
the
you tell me
problem
that?
with that
Why would I
show.
want to watch that?
Because
now?
you will know parents like this, and you'll be like,
oh.
yeah,
It'll probably just make me mad.
for sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But-
Not sad.
but you'll-
or
no,
both?
it'll make you both.
Julian, people like me and you, we can't watch that show.
I know.
It's working us up too much, and then we're so worked up. Like we're like blaming
dude,
it on
I-
everybody.
But that's
I
why
don't-
that's why I love this show, is that like the reflection of us in this show. Like that's what the Black Mirror is, right? It's you in your reflection in your phone. Like
Yeah.
it's such an amazing look at society and how we can go. There was an interview with the creator just a couple of weeks ago. Charlie Booker, where they were like, "Is it weird that you've been like predicting things for the past
Oh,
12
that-
years?" He's like, "Yeah, it's sort of eerie
No.
because the AI episodes that he released, like
Mm.
the week it was released was the week that ChatGPT was released, and you're just like, wow,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
fucked up, isn't it?"
Oh,
I think the weirdest one was David Cameron and the pig.
I mean,
people are talking about the pig in the chat.
that's
My
my
It's
first
the
episode,
first
so yeah.
episode,
Yeah.
Julian, it's
Yeah.
the first episode.
Dana
I
told
was
me to
like-
watch the Peloton episode.
Yeah, everybody's saying to watch the Peloton episode.
I'm trying to remember which one
I'm
that is.
trying to think what that one is too.
Would I ever get back on my Peloton again?
I'm gonna ask the collective which one should I watch.
There's that 80s exercise one. I don't remember what it was called.
Yeah, I can't remember. But the like Black Mirror is weird because it has like these deep, like, dark twist endings, but then every once in a while it will throw in like just an amazingly light episode.
Yep.
And I'm just gonna throw out a couple episode titles of ones that I really like, but I'm not gonna say which they are because I don't want to spoil it for Julian and Giraffe.
I don't care. It's because of Julian.
Okay, that's fair enough. I really love the episode "Hang the DJ."
Oh yes. Why didn't I say that? Oh damn it.
Well, because you had to let me say something.
That's fair. That's fair.
And it's like a very interesting look at at dating,
Mhm, mhm.
which is funny. Me being interested in that, but no, I thought it was very cool. This is one of the newer ones, and I know like the newest season was kind of a little less like looked upon well, but Lock Henry,
Yes, that's a good one.
yeah. And I love that, especially now that the show is being done by Netflix, because it really felt like Netflix telling on itself.
Mhm, mhm.
I mean, they actually did that a couple of times during the last season, because they did that with Lock Henry and they did that with Jonas Awful.
The for all those people that love those mystery like sleuth podcasts where they're like, we're gonna go and
the murder podcast.
murder
yeah.
podcast like
Oh my
that.
God,
That's
I
what
hate
like
this.
Lock
Such a
Henry.
massive genre.
Lock Henry
Yeah.
does a perfect job of that.
What if we started a Star Trek murder, like true crime, like what really happened to the Romulan human kid in Drumhead?
You know, like what
Well,
happened?
That
like,
sounds like a
Roman,
lot of
what?
writing.
I feel like every episode would have to end with, and now we're getting back to the mystery of what happened to Benjamin Sisko.
yeah.
And
I
see,
love that.
that's kind of my true crime podcast voice, where it's just very soft and
I
we're
like it.
Yeah.
examining
like it.
things.
You got to go really close.
I
and-
hate true crime podcasts. I just have to say that. But it's a beautiful voice. It's great. I'm sorry if I'm making enemies, but I feel it's prying on people's misery. And
I
if
mean,
I end up
I
being
get
dead
it.
in a ditch, I hope people are not going to be like, oh my God, we're going to get one for you today. I'll be like, no,
Yeah,
these
no,
are people.
yeah.
I think you guys would also like playtest. I think that's a great one for.
Oh,
Oh,
Playtest
somebody
is
was
an
talking
interesting
about
one.
it on in the chat.
Mhm. Oh, cool. And for like people who want a totally different Black Mirror experience, check out Bandersnatch. Like it's a choose your own adventure on Netflix.
That I want to do.
I actually
really
haven't
badly.
watched that one yet because it doesn't work on Apple TV, and I'm too lazy to
What?
sign
How
up
does it
on
not
Netflix
work
on my computer.
Apple TV?
There's a couple of things it doesn't
That's so
work
weird.
on.
That's garbage.
Yeah, you have to like do it on your computer or
It's how
something.
I watch
and
Netflix.
and I'm too lazy to log into Netflix on my computer. Is there anything in the chat? I don't have the
I didn't
chat.
check.
open.
15 Million Merits.
Yep,
Season
yep.
1.
That one's-
Well, that's
Yeah.
the one I watched, no?
Yeah, that was
the one. That
What's
is.
her face? The redhead.
No, that's a different one. That not.
Yeah, it's the one with Daniel Kaluuya that you watched.
Oh yeah.
Chris Waterman wrote Demon 79.
Demon
Oh.
79 is an interesting
Yeah.
one because that's actually the first episode in what they're calling Red Mirror. It's like a backdoor pilot for a new show they're doing called Red Mirror, which is not going to be science fiction. It's going to be horror.
It's like
I'll watch
Metalhead
that.
would be on
See,
that
if
too.
it's like I love American Horror Story because I
Mhm.
think I like the way they play on tropes of horror.
Mhm.
And as long as it's big and I don't have to think too much about myself, I think I'm good.
Fair enough.
Fair. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to actually talking about this episode. So our order tonight: Julian, Eric, Giraffe, and myself. So just to start out with, to get into a background on Black Mirror, because U.S.S. Callister is part of this series. It's a British show that started in 2011 on Channel 4 in the UK, and it's gained enough popularity that it was picked up by Netflix. It's an anthology series, kind of like The Twilight Zone, as Giraffe said. And it's known for its dark twists on technology. So, I mean, I think the Strange New Loop already covered how familiar you guys were with Black Mirror when we decided to do this review. But I think, Julian, my question to you still stands. What made you specifically want to do this episode, other than the fact that we needed some Star Trek content?
Well, way to take away my answer.
Star Trek?
Well,
But
no,
I mean, we could have done some. There's a lot of Star Trek parodying
no,
stuff.
there is, but this is something that I'd always just like been hearing in the background from people who were like, you should really watch U.S.S. Callister. You should really watch U.S.S. Callister. By the way, have you watched U.S.S. Callister? No, I haven't. I haven't watched any Black Mirror. I'd really like to. I have 2 kids. I don't have time, and I do a Star Trek podcast weekly. So to retake my answer, Discovery was ending, and we needed content, and it just seemed like a really fun and different thing to do because we don't veer away from Trek very often. Like we've never done a Galaxy Quest podcast, and I was
gonna say, like, I'm surprised we did this before Galaxy
I don't
Quest.
think I'll ever. You guys can throw
Yes.
me out.
Like
should.
Galaxy
Do it.
Quest?
You don't like
I
it?
don't. No, hold on.
Everyone's just like, no.
This is gonna turn into a Galaxy Quest episode now.
I don't not like Galaxy Quest. I just don't care.
I get it. It's
Yeah.
a fun movie.
and I feel like it's been like everybody.
It's
in
been
the
done a lot.
in the Star Trek podcasting world. I think has done a Galaxy Quest episode, and like I just don't know what I'd have to offer because it's so like, okay, this is Star Trek in a really unique and different way, where Galaxy Quest is literally the Orville before we had the Orville. Like, it's just straight parody. I'd actually rather like go through all of the Orville on the pod.
I will
So
not watch that last season of The Orville, even if you pay me.
there's some bad episodes,
does
some
now.
really good episodes. We already reviewed them, so we did them on Patreon, I think. I forget honestly. But that was it. Like, we needed content. I'd always wanted to watch this episode. People had just like started bringing it up more recently. I'm like, well, let's just fucking do it, because
Mm-hmm.
it seems like a really, and then like, I also just I'm a huge Twilight Zone fan. Like, I grew up on
Mhm.
it, and I never watched the Paramount Plus revival because I just couldn't bring myself to. I don't know.
It's good.
It's
I'm
not
actually-
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually watched it and I liked it.
I'm
Yeah.
a fan of every single version of the Twilight Zone. Like, I love the 80s one. I love the one that they did on UPN back
Oh
in
my
the
God.
early aughts.
That one was so.
I still haven't seen all of the one on Paramount Plus because Canada.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
Yeah. So I mean, that's really what it comes down to, and I feel like there's so much, like, I don't know, Star Trek and the Twilight Zone are very like intertwined, and like Black Mirror is kind of the spiritual successor, I think, as you wrote
Yeah.
in the outline to it. So it was just time. Like, I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I don't know, it just seemed like the right time. That's it.
yeah. Well, I mean, it certainly did take us all by surprise, but I think a very pleasant surprise. I mean, everybody could see our reactions on
It's a good episode.
yeah. So let's actually dig into the episode. This episode is about a shy, insecure man named Robert Daly who creates an immersive video game, but he can also create digital copies of people who have wronged him, and he puts them into his game. He's got a modded personal copy that replicates his favorite TV show, Space Fleet. And when he brings in the new employee, Nanette, she refuses to follow the rules and tries to lead the rest of the crew in freeing themselves. So, like a lot of Black Mirror episodes, you can actually get a pretty quick elevator pitch for it. I mean, like, we've been mentioning Black Mirror episodes, and you can get a very quick idea as to what they are. It's like, oh, that's the dating app episode. That's the episode with the pig. And this one is the Star Trek one. But there's a lot of nuance to it. So I want to get an actual review of this episode from everybody. And Julian, this is your first time watching it. So what did you think of it? And for everyone else, did it hold up?
Yeah, so I loved it. Like, it was, I was worried because like people had really hyped it up. Be like, this is like, it's so good, you know, you should watch it. Like, so many people said it's so good, you should watch it. So you hear enough of that, and then all of a sudden you don't enjoy something, and it's like, oh, is it because people hype something up too much? And no, like, the hype was real. Like, I think it's both from like amazing acting performances. I love how the episode starts. I love that they bring you into it in like the classic 60s style, in the 4:3 framing, and you're like, okay, they're going for it. And I have to give a massive shout out to Jesse Plemons. I know that he worked with an acting coach to get the Shatnerisms right, but like, holy shit, if he didn't like, if he looked just a little bit more like Matt Damon, he could have been Jim Kirk. Like, he was really good, and yeah.
Yeah. I think actually, like, the best thing about his performance is that it's not a parody. He's like that, like, because I mean, like, so many people have their Shatner.
Right. No, it's not a parody, you know, even though the character and the captain are like completely vile and awful human beings. Like, the way that he like kind of wrote a love letter to Jim Kirk like was awesome. And it really, like, it really pulled me into the episode. I think that if he was doing more of like a parody, it maybe would have thrown me out of it. But it was just like it was so good. The all like and listen, all the performances in this episode were really good. Like this is a great cast. There's the guy who plays like the Khan character. He was in No Time to Die. He played like the evil CIA guy in that. And then we have I always forget the actor's name, but
Michaela Cole.
no, the guy.
Well, I mean,
who
she is in
voices-
that.
Yeah, but the guy who voices
It's
Dreadnought,
Jimmy Simpson. You're thinking.
Jimmy Simpson,
Mm.
Oh, yeah,
is
Jimmy Simpson,
is the guy who takes down his pants and is like,
From Westworld.
Westworld,
Yeah.
yeah.
I never watched
Yeah, it's-
Westworld.
Next episode, Westworld.
Oh God.
We
We'll
keep
just watch shit
discovering
that Julian
things
hasn't
today.
seen.
Anyway, no, it lived up to all the hype, and I'm actually a little bit sad I didn't get to watch it one more time. But it was a pleasure watching it with, especially watching with Jesco, because it's both of our first times watching it, and both of our reactions were very similar as we were typing. It was an awesome experience. It was fantastic.
Great. Eric?
The hype for this episode before season 4 came out was so intense. Like I remember this was one of the first things that they promoted, like in the trailer. And
Mhm.
I was talking to Hawk about this at the time, and we were so excited for it. So when it fully dropped, like me and him were like Jessica and Julian, we were just typing while we were watching it. And it's such a good start off for this season too. Like not only is it a great episode, it's an amazing start for a really good season. Season 4 was really good. And not only is it a love letter to Star Trek and, you know, sort of Star Trek fandom, but there's also like so many hints towards sci-fi in the past. Like there's a Harlan Ellison book that it really draws upon. And like it's so smartly written. Like I said that earlier about Black Mirror, and every episode is like that. But this one is incredibly like nuanced in its portrayal of sci-fi, and especially this type of sci-fi, like the Star Trek type shows. And like the acting, like Julian said, the acting was phenomenal. The cast, like Jesse Plemons, Kristen Milioti, like without these two leads, like everything sort of would fall away. Like you have to feel sorry for Robert Daly at first before you start hating him, right? And he does such a good job at it. Lynette was such an endearing character, and I love that she sort of just took control. It's like, yeah, you, when she was talking to the helmsman, and he was like, well, you know, I've been trying to hack it since I got here, and she's like, I haven't tried it yet, and then she totally gets it. I'm like, fuck yeah, that was awesome.
I have her in my notes too. Like without Jesse Plemons and Kristen Milioti, like this episode wouldn't be as good.
Yeah.
Like period.
And and seeing the duality between the two personalities, right? You see them in the real life first. You see it in the TV show, but such a small episode at the beginning. But then you see the full realized people, and you're like, oh fuck, that's where he's pulling these people. And then it just gets darker and darker, and why he pulls them. The sequence with Jimmy Simpson's son was terrifying, and you know that Daly would have just kept doing it over and over again until he broke it, right? And that's heartbreaking.
Can I just go off on that real quick,
Yeah,
Eric?
yeah.
So I have a line of what I'll watch and what then I'll start yelling at in television, and that's like showing kids get like hurt or killed. Not hinting at it, like I'm hinting and artistically like how they did in this episode, but actually showing it happen. That's kind of my line, and I'm like, you don't ever need to actually show it. There are ways around it to still make viewers get it, and that's my line. And this episode does such an amazing job of making you feel every moment of that, especially as a parent, without showing it. And I give so much respect to the directors, the cinematographers, everybody for basically showing it without showing it, because I don't like to see it, but you still felt like every single bit of pain with that. And oof.
The acting from Jimmy Simpson at that part was so beautifully done. And up until that point, everyone thought he was a douchebag, right? You see him as a douchebag in real life. You see him sort of as a down on his luck douchebag in the TV in the
Onboard
video game world.
Callister, yeah.
But like at that point when he starts going over that memory, and then you just see him like slowly tear up, and you're like, "Fuck, that's so well done." Yep, sorry.
So I just wanted to mention, because Julian brought up the director. The director is Toby Haynes, and he's the guy who's supposed to be doing the Star Trek prequel.
And he did
He did Andor, yeah.
And he did Andor.
Right?
Listen, not the biggest Andor fan here, and that show's fucking gorgeous. So, yeah,
Best Star
doesn't
Wars show.
surprise me.
I don't know what
debatable.
else I can. No, it's not. What? I don't even know what else to say. Like, the send off at the end. I love that this is one of those Black Mirror episodes that doesn't have a definitive ending. Like most of them don't, but this one you could tell like you can go somewhere with this, and I would be totally okay with going there or not going back with it at all.
Well, we'll be getting into that later.
I know, that's why I
Giraffe.
stopped.
Finally!
Now you know
But
how
they
it
did the
feels.
Now
full
you know
review.
how it
She just
feels.
ask you if you like the episode, and they go like in full review of like scenes, guys. Hi. Okay.
I heard review.
Actually,
I did it.
Nah, I know. I actually watched that episode. Everybody was like, "Oh, there's the Star Trek episode, the Star Trek episode," but I don't watch Black Mirror because I was like, it's gonna be gloomy and dark and depressing, and it's gonna make me not like Star Trek. So I actually didn't watch it until somebody told me that Michaela Cole was in it, because I really like this actress. I first met her in Chewing Gum. If you've not watched that series, she wrote and acted in that series. In 2015, I watched that, and I loved her since then. She's in the second Black Panther. She's one of the Dora Milaje. She wrote another show that I don't remember the name of it, but it's the story of her how she was sexually abused, and it's like incredible show. If she's an incredible writer, she's a very good actress. So I was like, oh, I'll watch it. Yeah.
I believe the show is I May Destroy You. Is that the one you're
I May
talking
Destroy
about?
You. That's it. That I May Destroy You. Yeah. She's an incredible writer. So she wrote a lot. She wrote Chewing Gum and I May Destroy You. I always rooted for her to be Jane Bond.
Oh, that would be sweet.
I think she'll be so good. But anyway, so that's what actually pushed me over the edge to watch that episode. And I really like the aesthetic of it. I think that's something that really seduced me because it's Star Trek without being Star Trek. But you see that they like Star Trek. So I like that. And I think that Star Trek is just the core. It's just the setting. It's not really relevant to the story in itself. It could have been any sci-fi franchise. So I like the fact that they use the language of Star Trek, like the aesthetic language of Star Trek, like these uniforms. You like see exactly where they drew it from. There are some scenes and so on that you see like the exact reference. So I was geeking. But what really made me like this episode is that I used to be a fervent player of Second Life. And
yes, of course you did.
oh, I built a whole library in Second Life. I was like into it, and I really recognize like Infinity as Second Life, where like you can be you and people can be them, but you can also do whatever you want to people who look like other people that which is absolutely wild. And you can use it for good, you can use it for bad. You can interact with people. And so I think as much as it's a Star Trek episode, I feel it's really, and I watched that when did it come out?
Season
2018.
2017.
Yeah, so
so-
I watched it during the pandemic, I think. Like 2020 or 2021. I watched it like recently-ish. And wait, Second Life still exists?
What?
I thought they destroyed it. I thought it didn't exist anymore.
2017.
Yeah, was right.
Didn't they shut that down?
Yeah, I thought
Anyway,
they shut it down.
I thought it shut it down.
It
I will
lives
not
like
go
Live
back.
Journal forever.
So I feel, yes, the aesthetic is Star Trek. It has the language of Star Trek, but I feel it really talks about, these like these universe, like the meta universe that now they're building, and Second Life or World of Warcraft. I played World of Warcraft for like 15 years, I think. So nope, still there. Oh my god, Second Life still exists. That's
Wow.
wild. Sorry.
You're gonna boot it up
It's
later,
okay.
aren't you?
So yeah, I think it like satisfied like several of my geekiness, so that's why I loved it. But also it's hopeful, and it's not too graphic. Also, I like horror, but I don't like just like torture porn or stuff like that. Like it's not my stuff. Like but yeah. So that's why I liked it. It was good rewatching it. Good having an opportunity to rewatch it
Yeah.
because I caught more things. It's interesting how
Yeah.
in 4 years that you can already like read the episode differently.
Mhm. Yeah. So for me, I love Black Mirror. And when I first saw this episode, it wasn't my favorite episode. I thought it was okay. When I first saw it, because you said it was 2017.
Yep.
I had yet to hit my peak Star Trek. I liked it, but I was a fan of Star Trek, but I was not a Star Trek fan, if that makes sense. Um, and I hadn't actually yet seen TOS, and this is very TOS heavy. Um, and the Black Mirror episodes that I tend to like are the ones that destroy me. Like I'm like the complete opposite of Giraffe, where it's like sometimes I like the happy ones, but I like the ones with like the cruel twist ending where like people are absolutely destroyed.
Mhm.
And this is not that episode, so it's like, oh, this is fun and cute, like because in terms of Black Mirror, this actually is fun and cute, even though like there's like these cookies that are like trapped inside of a video game. Like it's still very, everybody everything turns out in the end for everybody except for the bad guy, and that rarely ever happens.
Rarely.
So I was just like, it's okay. But I've seen it like a couple of times since, because Black Mirror is one of those things that I will go back to because it's a very easy one to revisit, because it's like I'll just throw on an episode of Black Mirror and I don't need to watch anything else after that. It can just be like that single episode. So in the process of seeing it, I have grown to appreciate it more, especially as I've become more of a Star Trek fan. And I've picked up on more things like how, Billy Magnuson's character is gone, and uh, all of like the little subtle things where it's like, oh yeah, this is, obviously the people who are writing this, it's not that they are just making like a flat Star Trek parody. They obviously are deeply familiar with the material and are using it to actually tell a story, which is really great. So we could actually get into those Star Trek comparisons, because this is the Star Trek episode. And as Julian mentioned before, Jesse Plemons had a vocal coach to get that similar cadence to William Shatner. Michaela Cole looks so much like Uhura. Like out of all of the characters, they like gave her the hair, and like she has the earpiece too. Like it's a little eerie. And we've all seen other parodies of Trek. Your Galaxy Quest. I think CSI has an episode that does a Star Trek parody. So how does this stack up to other stand-ups to Star Trek?
Yeah, so I want more of this, and I know we're going to talk about potential sequel later. It's funny because we talked about Galaxy Quest earlier, and Galaxy Quest is fine. Like, it's good, it's funny, but like Galaxy Quest is pure parody.
Mhm.
Then you have the Orville, and I've always had a love-hate relationship with that show because season 1 went so hard on the comedy and not enough on like actually trying to, even though it was down to like I thought they were going to get sued for like their scores sometimes. But like, and then like season 2 was really good, and then season 3, I don't even know, are there 4 seasons or 3 seasons? think only 3 seasons. I don't know. It just seems like there's always like a back and forth to a point where it's like the Orville is good parody Trek or like, you know, Trek love letter, but like I don't need more Orville. If they do renew it, like yeah, I'll be happy and like I'll watch it. But I'm not one of those people that's like renew the Orville, like come on. That's just not me. This I'd like to see. I don't think there's ever going to be like a Black Mirror U.S.S. Callister like full on spinoff, even though I think that would be kind of cool.
Maybe.
Dude, maybe. I
There's
actually
talks
think that
about
would
it.
be really cool. If there are, I'm in, because I think that putting someone like Kristen Melody in the captain's chair is a really cool concept. I love her attitude. She's got the best go line in Star Trek, by
Let's
the way.
fucking go.
Let's fucking go, or just fucking go. Let's fuck off somewhere is like my 2 favorite lines from the entire episode. I loved it. Like I really did. Once she comes into her own, is like, fuck this guy. I'm not gonna. It just it makes it so good, and it, like I don't know. It really did it for me. I don't know why, but like I'd like to see this cast together in a spinoff. So yeah, no, I really liked it a lot. It did the show justice. Like it did Star Trek justice. I think more than, I don't want to say it's hard to say more than the Orville, because the Orville is literally Star Trek with the Orville slapped on it.
Yeah, but it's different. It's, you know, with the Orville, it's it really does want to be Star Trek, and this
Like-
is not trying to be Star
no,
Trek.
it's yeah.
And the Orville,
Yeah.
like if they had the license, they could
Mhm.
just be Star Trek. You know,
Yep.
they
I mean,
could have
and that's
been
the thing. Like
a
Orville is
franchise.
almost Orville
a
is so
series.
like Orville is so close to being live action Lower Decks. You
Yep.
know, except Lower Decks is 1,000 times better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, it is. That's the thing. Like it is like the Orville is Star Trek. Like this isn't, and so it's that kind of like more love letter. And I
It's
felt
just
like it was a
another
really good love letter.
It's just another alternate dimension. That's what the Orville is, right?
Yeah,
Like I could
yeah,
totally
pretty
just see
much.
it being another mirror universe.
They just gave it like another
It's
name,
adjacent to the Kelvin verse, and that's
right? Yeah,
my
there you
one.
go.
I like it.
Yeah. Yep.
What was the question?
Eric.
Check how's it compared to all the
Star
other
Trek,
parodies?
yeah.
I think it does a wonderful job without it being overly like a parody. Like it's not just a parody of Star Trek. That's what makes this show so good. Like it takes a knock on gamers, it takes a knock on sci-fi fans, it takes a knock on genre fans in general. Ship heads based on the amount of ships he had in his office. Like
Mm.
I love how much this is in the fandom without it being Galaxy Quest. Like that's what I love about this, and I would want to see this more than the Orville. Like 100%. Like this would be something new and refreshing, because they're doing something that this crew, especially what happens at the end of this episode, is nothing like we've seen ever like before. Maybe a little bit like Ready Player One, but done well. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say Ready Player One's not a really great reference.
Yeah. The book was all right. All right.
Eh.
I said all right. But yeah, I think this is more than just a parody. It is like a love letter, like Galaxy Quest, but without it being just about Star Trek.
For me, it's not a
Jeff.
parody, to be honest. I see Galaxy Quest and the Orville being parodies. You know, they are making fun of the franchise. I feel like Callister is about a fan, and the question is, what I liked about it is like, you know, Star Trek and what is it called? What is it called? Not
Space
Starfleet.
Fleet in
Space
this.
Space Fleet.
Fleet.
Space Fleet, like it's clearly Star Trek, right? They're not like parodying it. It has the same value. It has the same. Oh, you know, we're not showing like genitals, and you're on duty for Space Fleet. There are so many lines. It's like clearly is a Trekkie, right? They just don't have the license, and it's Black Mirror, so it's all like a little bit like adjacent, which like adds to the feeling of you know it but you don't know it. So is a Trekkie, and I think the thing for me is that I don't even see it as a parody or something. It's just Star Trek. Like they literally say Star Trek line. Like he says like, "Can you say engage?" or "I can do this." Like they're like literal line from Star Trek. And the question is, how can you be a fan of something that is so wholesome, so with such like good values and like progressive values, and still be an absolute horrible fucking dick? And
I mean,
that's what I liked about it, because I think it's
Yeah.
more about
Yeah.
Trekkies than it is about Star Trek in itself. They use the language of Star Trek, so it's recognizable for us as, that progressive show that broke the race barrier on TV and all this. And I think that's why I don't really classify it as a parody, because they never make fun of Star Trek. They
Yeah,
question
that's a great point.
mhm.
they question the virtue signaling of fans of Star Trek, which makes the show even more appealing. Like this episode even more appealing to me.
Yeah. Um, one thing that, I find with a lot of Star Trek parodies is that they so often go after behind the scenes. Like any, Captain Kirk character always becomes Shatner, and they're always doing stuff about this. Like, I mean, like that's the thing with Galaxy Quest. Like, it's not even a parody of Star Trek, it's a parody of the making of Star Trek. And that's not what's going on here. Anything that they're referencing from Star Trek is done in complete earnestness. Like, and they're not drawing attention to it. Like you have like the guy, the pilot of the ship, and he's got like the things on the side of his head, and it's like he's obviously like supposed to be Geordie LaForge. And just there's so many small things that can be picked out as, referencing Star Trek. And um yeah, like Giraffe said, like none of it is done to make fun of Star Trek. It is used as a language to get the whole point of the story across. And you could actually have this be anything else. Like it does not have to be Star Trek. It could be, you know, it could be Star Wars. They could have made it like a Star Wars thing.
But Star Wars
Uh,
doesn't have the values of Star Trek. Like I
that
can
is
totally
true.
compute. I'm really sorry for what I'm about to say, because I like Star Wars, but I totally compute that you can be a horrible dick and be a Star Wars fan. I see people dress as the Empire all the fucking time,
That's true.
So I wouldn't be it wouldn't be shocking to me. Not that it's shocking in the show, but I think it questions a duality of values that makes the story even more interesting. Like the fact that it doesn't give them genitals and like you kiss without the tongue and all this. Like that guy has like surface value and didn't
Surface
understand any
morals, yeah.
surface
Yeah.
morals, and but we'll throw a kid out of an airlock to be able to go on adventure, and you're just like, what do you mean this is space fleet duty value and stuff? And I feel like if there's one show where you can see a kid being thrown out of an airlock, it's Star Wars.
Battlestar.
I mean, Battlestar, duh, like 1000%. But like, I'd be shocked. I'd be, that meme, like calculating the distance to the nearest airlock. But I feel that Star Trek, that would be shocking to all of us if that happened.
Yeah.
If a character like that would be in Star Trek. So I feel maybe Babylon 5 has that kind of morals, maybe. I don't know. There's not a lot of like sci-fi show where like you're supposed to be a good human all the time.
That is true.
Definitely
though.
not Battlestar.
The Expanse.
Definitely not Battlestar. Not The Expanse. Get that out of here.
Yeah.
I
I said
understand that
Babylon
now.
5. I said Babylon 5.
I don't know, but even Babylon 5.
Babylon 5 is like ish.
But yeah, so I do like how they actually handled the parody aspect by having it not be a parody. But we're talking about like the kind of the surface stuff, comparing it to other parodies. And I think if we're really looking at this episode, I want to take a look at Hollow Pursuits. It's yeah.
That's a good one. Yes.
I mean, that's the Next Generation episode where we meet Reg Barkley, and it's basically this episode, except it's holographic replicas instead of digital copies. Reg is able to develop relationships, to vent his frustrations, because he can't do that in real life. So it's very similar to Robert Daly, but Daly's a sadist, and he's doing it to actual people. Like they might not have actual bodies, but they're digital clones. So do you think the writers were directly pulling from Hollow Pursuits? And what's our comfort level comparing the characters?
Yeah, so 100% pulling from Hollow Pursuits. I kept on saying in the chat last night, this is basically Daly is like if Reg went 5 steps too far. I will argue that this is actually almost more of a comparison to Pathfinder. I think that's the episode.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Oh, the one
Voyager.
with the Voyager?
with Voyager, yeah,
Yeah.
on a Voyager, because I want to talk about that episode for a minute, because holy shit, if Reg doesn't end up being successful, Reg is going to prison.
Yeah.
And that's what really gets me. Like he has at that point in Pathfinder violated like their likenesses, right? By like creating them so closely and creating intimate relationships. So like I'm just gonna say it, in Pathfinder, I actually think he has gone those 5 steps too far, but it's Starfleet. All is forgiven because you made contact with Voyager. So we're gonna forget that you have a nasty hollow addiction and not put you in prison for what you just did. It's a great comparison. Excuse me. It's a great comparison. It's, I think, very much a love letter to that, both of these episodes. Reg is a really flawed character. I think that Reg has always had the potential to be as shitty of a person as is it Daly or Daly?
Daly.
Daly.
Yeah, as shitty a person as Daly. I think it's a little bit different because Reg also likes pleasing people. So where Daly just like is scorn of the earth, like I'm like he's been wronged by people, but he also just like it just automatically goes to scorn, where like Reg wants to be good at his job and Reg does have friendships, whereas Daly just doesn't have that. Yeah, I do think it is closer to Pathfinder, because like I think in Pathfinder he just does go way too far, and unfortunately when we talk about this, I feel like on the podcast all the time, Starfleet just does not understand mental health, and when something goes right in the face of someone doing something incredibly wrong, it just gets swept under the rug. And go ahead.
Well, we've also got to think about the fact that Pathfinder is in like Voyager season 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Hollow Pursuits is Next Generation season 3.
Oh, it's season 3. Okay,
so there's what, like 9 years separating those episodes, and
yeah, so it's like
his hollow addiction's just gotten worse.
Yeah, it's just like really like who knows. I feel like Reg talks to Deanna in these episodes a little bit, that like he was able to like get past his hollow addiction for a while, but became so obsessed with Voyager and their story that he relapsed. But he took it to a really inappropriate level in Pathfinder. So this is a great point from Kang, actually. Callister is a lot closer to those Holosuite programs they hinted at in Quarks, like when the person paid Quark for a Holo featuring Kira. I don't know, because listen, like if you don't think people are fucking in hollow suites and
I
like
mean, we
doing
know
their,
Lower Decks
I
told
was,
us.
thank you. I was literally about to say, Mariners or Boimler are cleaning out the hollow filters. Like it's disgusting. People do that shit.
We know it from Voyager
I'm
also.
sorry. Yeah, exactly.
We know it for like many series
many
that
series.
Yeah.
they're fucking the
I'm
holosuit.
I'm going
like,
off too much on this, but like, yeah, I think this definitely compares a bit more to Pathfinder, except Reg never faces any of the consequences that Daly does, because Daly fucking dies, because he's an absolutely horrible human being. The difference is, I don't think that Reg is a horrible human being, because I don't think he ever like abuses anybody in the holodeck. He gets close, but it never really comes to that. Whereas Daly fucking kills kids,
Yeah.
So, yeah, great comparisons to both episodes.
Eric.
You know what? Honestly, I never thought about it until I read it about 3 minutes ago. But everything Julian said is really interesting. Like, I feel like Daly has no support system, though, right? That's the issue with
Right.
him. Like, there's no one around him, and he doesn't let people get close to him. And Reg has always had friends, or at least people around him that have cared enough to, step in, and when they see something. So, I think that's a big difference between these two. Also, like, the world of Black Mirror is just bleak in general, and
Mhm.
and Starfleet, despite their lack of mental health training, they they're generally in a more hopeful place. So I'm trying to think of how, like, if there's any place in Black Mirror where they could have gone the Barkley route, but every time they've abused technology, and that's what the show is about, is the abuse of technology. Like, it
Mhm.
always has dire consequences, and that's what we get in this.
Giraffe.
So I've always been obsessed by the fact that there's no regulation for the holodecks.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
like we all know that maybe that's why Star Trek is a utopia. It's because people can just go and do their kink and fuck wherever they want and murder people on the holodeck, and it's cathartic. And I think it's like, like the goal of the tragedy, that you go and see like all horror movies. You go and you see the horrible thing, and then it cleans you from like your pulsions of like doing horrible things.
Mm.
Well, the holodeck is actually letting you do all the horrible things, and then it gets out of your system. But we know from like seeing like porn addictions, for example, that usually it just not doesn't get out of your system. You just go worse and worse
Yeah.
and worse and worse and worse and worse. And so it's interesting that they flirted with the idea with Barclay, but never went all the way in, because it's still Star Trek and there are still kids watching. And I think it's great that Black Mirror actually took that step and went in. But I think the big difference is that in the holodeck, the people are not sentient, with
Right.
Mhm.
the exception of Moriarty, which like they willfully lock away in the program, which is wild, right? And I would say Disco with Zora with the grief counseling hologram, which made me very uncomfortable, because I was like,
Yeah.
Zora is sentient and she's masquerading as your dead grandmother. Like, this is wild. This is like crazy behavior, right? So I feel the big difference with, and where Black Mirror takes it like a step in, is that these people are sentient. They're still thinking and operating when he's away, which adds to the horror of it, because he knows that. I think he knows that they're still doing things when he's away, right? So he knows that they're physically enduring pain. It's a bit like for the droid in Star Wars. Like when they just like dismantle droids and just like give them
Mhm.
away and beat them up. When we know they're sentient and we know they think and we know they endure pain, and nobody seems to care. Everybody's like, it's a droid, it's all fine. So it's interesting. I would also compare it to Booby Trap, which is our favorite episode ever, right?
I
Yeah.
love Booby Trap. Come on. I
with
love
what's our third-
the non-Geordie stuff about Booby Trap.
because like it's the same. We know he keeps bringing her back for his own entertainment after that, and she doesn't like this, which fair enough. And I think it's
Wait, can I interrupt
interesting.
you, Giraffe?
Yeah.
Do we actually know that Geordie brought Leia back after the events of?
No, but she knows that
I never assumed that he
she
did.
knows that he did that. He brought her on the hologram, right? On the
Right.
No?
Yeah. Well, she
Yeah.
figures it out. Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah. Okay.
which it's like kind of like the same thing. I then like would happen here if she had answered the message. Um, I want to say that I when I watched it, this show didn't exist, but I rewatching it today, I thought a lot of Severance. Have you watched Severance? Nobody has watched it.
I
I've
have.
watched some of
It's
it.
so
I want
good.
to.
It's very good.
So you watched it, Eric?
Yeah, I did.
So this idea of like the double of you that is a sentient you, a living you, but it's totally
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Giraffe.
End of the program.
Okay, so should I go while we're waiting for Giraffe to come back?
Yeah.
um yeah, and I think Giraffe was kind of getting into this, that uh the big difference is that these people are actual people, as opposed to in the holodeck. Oh, now she's gone completely. Um but I mean, like, if you actually like watch Hollow Pursuits, like when Reg is introduced, he is beating up Riker. It's just, holographic Riker. Um so it does come down to the difference of the fact that these are basically real people. And I think the difference between Barclay and Daly is that if Barclay was dealing with digital copies of real people and it's just them like completely copied perfectly, he would just be Reg. He would be the same guy that he is, on the ship. He would not be able to talk to them. The whole reason he's able to talk to the holograms is because he knows that they're fake, and he can kind of tweak their personalities so that, they're approachable for him. Meanwhile, Daly probably could have programmed people who looked like everyone that he's mad at in, but he chose specifically to bring them themselves with all of their thoughts and emotions in, because he wanted that. Hello.
I am back. Sorry.
Welcome
I was
back.
in Infinity. I'm sorry. You want to? Oh my God. Am I here?
Yeah.
You're good.
You
You're
are
here.
here,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're gonna.
Okay. Oh,
MC, do you want to
Finish.
finish?
yeah.
I know.
Finish what you were
I
saying.
did kind of finish my thought
Oh,
just
cool.
as Giraffe was
Nice.
coming in.
Yeah, I was talking about Severance, and
Yes, you are.
I feel this like Severance is a very good show. If you've not watched it, go watch it. Because it touches around the idea of slavery and enslaving your own self. In the fact that people do it knowingly. I mean, knowingly, not knowing. I mean, they don't know what's going on, but like they approve of it. They sign it off, right? And in Callister, there's this idea of non-consent, which makes everything absolutely worse because nobody consented to be there, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a powerful story of reclaiming your own body and reclaiming your own self from abuse, from enslavement, and so on. So I do think that yes, it's a holodeck episode, but it's a holodeck episode when asking the real questions,
Yeah.
which Star Trek will never do, right?
Oh,
Way too
definitely not,
absolutely
no.
insane.
No, I do think actually the closest we're going to get to Star Trek approaching this would be Quark's head on Kira's body, because I mean, like, that episode, I don't think that's like the like it's not a one for one, but certainly like scanning somebody without their consent does happen in that episode. Was there something else I was going to say about this? Because I think, cover a lot of it, and the fact that, Barkley wouldn't be able to deal with copies of people. Oh yeah. One thing I wanted to bring up is that this obviously also references other Star Trek episodes. Like one that really stood out to me was Charlie X, because Daly
example.
is he's a child. Basically, he is so unable to function as like a human adult, and he has these temper tantrums and the powers of a god in this world, and he's completely abusing them. And that's very much like Charlie X, and I will always bring up that episode because I really like that one. Yes, part of that is because of the beginning with Spock and Uhura, but yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that about people who are, either chronologically or mentally immature and then getting powers, which is brought up in our next thing, which is other references aside from Star Trek, because this borrows from Galaxy Quest, which, we already talked about that a little bit in the parodies, because this is a crew of ordinary people that kind of have to become space heroes. There's a little bit of Toy Story. They're artificial beings that have to come to terms with the fact that they're artificial. And the writers said that Daly is supposed to evoke Anthony Fremont from the Twilight Zone episode It's a Good Life, which is very much like Charlie X. I also want to just throw out one of my favorite.
The guys in the dollhouse?
It's a Good Life.
It's the little
It's
kid
the
who
one with
has
the
the god
kid.
powers.
kid.
Yeah, the kid.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good thing you did that. But yeah, I also wanted to mention one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes, which is 5 characters in search for an exit. Which this episode is like that, except this one has a happy ending on it, and that one just has a weird ending. But I think that's because that episode was referencing no exit. So do all of these references work together? Because I mean, there's more than just the ones that I pointed out. Is this plot strong enough to stand up to the massive amount of references?
I think that the accolades that this episode got 4 Emmys answers that question like it does.
Fair enough.
Outstanding
Threshold
television
had an Emmy,
movie.
so I don't know.
Yeah, what did?
Threshold? Isn't it Threshold who got an Emmy?
Yeah, that episode's amazing. Threshold is a good episode of Star Trek. Like, come on, stop
And
it.
I mean, it didn't get one for writing.
No,
These are
but
babies.
he did get an Emmy.
No, I think it is strong enough. I mean, listen, yes, it's a plot that we've seen before. I mean, but like, listen, if we're talking about Toy Story, they turned Toy Story into a fun romp for kids, but like, Toy Story is a fucking horror story. Like, it really is. And this episode of Black Mirror just shows what would happen like in that situation. Charlie X is a great example, all the way down to how Daly acts with what's the character's name? What's her name in the episode? I forget already. Nanette. How he interacts with Nanette in the lake, right? Like, Charlie X has no idea what to do with women in that episode, and he starts acting like an immature little boy. Kang brings up a great point. The face removal was also in Charlie X. Like, again, we're speaking of love letters. This episode is another love letter to Charlie X. And that goes into, I had to look it up to remember it, but yes, It's a Good Life is another great example. I don't know if I've actually seen 5 characters in search of an exit.
It's a good one. Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's
I will
very
have to
weird.
watch it because I fucking love the Twilight Zone. But yeah, but like, you can write all of these love letters and still write the script that they wrote for this episode and have it stand on its own and then get the accolades that it got, because I think it deserves them. Yeah, 100%.
Eric.
I think when you're referencing all of these different things in sci-fi and writing, and the thing that makes this good is that it's not overt, and they're not just being like, "Hey, look, you know this? We did this. You should realize that we made this reference." Like it's all built in really wonderfully. Like I keep saying this episode, the writing is so well done that people who don't know these references will just be like, "Oh, that's something cool that they wrote." But the people who see the Easter egg or the reference will be like, "Oh, that's cool that they brought that in." And it makes sense here because it doesn't none of these things seem out of place. Like I oh god, it's whenever you see something like, oh god, I love Rogue One, right? The movie, but there's a
Yes,
moment
me
in
too.
there where you see Dr. Baba and they're just walking down the hallway and they look at the camera and you're like, that is a bad Easter egg. Like that is them being like, "Hey, look, we put this here because you guys are fans." But this whole episode is just all layered in so well that if you don't know it, you won't care. But if you if you know it, you just be like, that's so awesome. You just added something even better to this.
I think the good thing is that all of these, I don't think they're Easter eggs. I think like these references are put here so you can be in the position of the fan, and so integrate yourself, like question yourself, what would you do if you were Daly? And that's how I felt watching the episodes, because I was like, that's a Star Trek reference. That's like a take on that uniform, and like she's Hurrah. And then I was like, why are they doing this? Because they could have been like more like more direct with I mean, they're pretty direct, right? But I think it's because we end up being Daily. We end up being the fan. We end up being like, I know that language. And I mean, let's be honest. If this thing existed, Infinity, with that mod, I would be in it. I would be playing the
Yeah,
shit
me too.
out of that
Yeah.
Like
thing.
100%.
100%. And I think that's where this episode is very well done in when it comes to references, is because it's all made in order to make sure that if you're a fan of something, you will create that connection with the content. And then I think normally you would interrogate yourself about your own, addiction to your own fandom and how important it is, and until where would you go for people to be playing the game with you, which we've all been as a fan, like being like, it's Star Trek uniform, and being like, people being like, what is that? But when people play with you, it's so much more fun, right? So I like that I took the references so I can interrogate myself as a fan in my own fandom. And I think it's interesting that uh Daly creates this only for him. Because if he had
Mhm.
opened that mod to something else, to other people, he would have people who would want to play with him, who would want to be Uhura. But it also asks the question of the dark urges, right? Like, I'm playing Baldur's Gate lately, and you have the opportunity to like be a horrible, horrible person in Baldur's Gate. And it's funny because I can't. Like,
I can't do
I
it either.
want to play a horrible character and
That's
do
me in
all
Mass Effect, and I never do
I
it.
can't do it.
terrible,
Ah, damn
the
it.
durable, terrible thing. And they're not sentient being, right? They're not even my friends playing. They're just like NPCs, and I still can't be mean to the kid. And I'm like, it. I was like watching the show, and I was like, well, they also mistreat Daly, and he hates them for like them being dicks to him. But then, even if you're a dick to me, don't want to spend my time playing with you on I want to see your face, So he's also a horrible psychopath. I don't think I would have it in me to do it even to an NPC. But I wanted to add two more references that I saw. I think there are like reference to the Martian Chronicles in it. I don't know. I love that book. I've read it like 17 times. And these I like the astronauts who arrive, and like everybody thinks they're crazy because they said they went to Mars, and they end up in an asylum. And like that this idea that like, no, we're not one of you, we're actually from Earth. And that the idea of like being other and trying to
Mhm.
like be yourself, but you can't, like, to escape that place. And also, I suppose everybody saw the movie The Others, where
Yeah.
I
I
haven't
think
watched the others yet. I want to.
oh yeah, this movie is very, very long, so the end, right? So there's the idea of like not know, like being another and not being able to compute in which space and in which line of existence you are, which is always a good question. Like, are we in a simulation? So yeah.
It's funny you brought up assimilation because instead of saying
Yeah.
uploading, it says assimilating
Assimilating.
when he's putting
Because
the
they
net into the
go
game.
into a simulation.
Yeah.
And we know the Borg when some of them dream and go to that other place,
Yeah,
right?
Unimatrix Zero.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we've been talking a lot about the writing of this episode. I wanted to give a shout out. This is written by the creator, Charlie Brooker, who does actually almost all of the episodes of Black Mirror. But it is also written along with William Bridges, who is somebody who hasn't done a whole lot. He did like an episode of Stranger Things and then a couple other things. And for anybody who is familiar with Black Mirror, he also did the episode Shut Up and Dance, which is I that episode haunts me. um but yeah, no, I mean, I've mentioned all of these references to things. And as everybody said, it doesn't distract from this episode at all. It makes the episode feel richer. The fact that you can't, like, even the thing that they're, pointing their finger at and saying it's like, this is our parody, they overboard with that. Like, they have a guy who's basically Khan, but they don't have Daly's character yell out whatever the guy's name is, like Khan. They don't do that. They very subtly have Daly be the only character who dies, and he's wearing a red jacket, which Kirk did not do in the original series. So they're not like really drawing a lot of attention to it, even though it's baked in, it's there. And so all of the references that they have are the same. It's like you can, pick up on them, obviously, that, oh, this is this and this is this. And they're probably not even referencing all of them. A couple of them they definitely are because they mentioned it in interviews, like with the Twilight Zone reference to It's a Good Life, which a lot of people reference because that's, an iconic episode. But definitely this episode, I think, stands up to it because there's something so universal about the idea of looking for self, which is what these characters are trying to do and trying to get out of oppression. And I think that they handled it really freaking well. So this episode, as well as talking about Star Trek, I think that it does kind of delve into the idea of toxic fandom. Robert Daly is very much a fanboy, and he's not really the best fanboy. He's someone who wants things his own specific way, and he's incredibly violent if the people aren't doing stuff right. There's one way Space Fleet can go in his mind. He's obviously got the full Black Mirror treatment. But is Daly a fair representation of toxic fandom?
Yes. Look no further than my comments above in the chat tonight. Not so much a reflection on the Trek fandom, which does have some toxicity in it for sure, but look no further than the Star Wars fandom right now, which is the worst fandom in fandom. There's a reason that I interact with Star Trek fandom, and I love Star Wars with all of my heart, and I don't interact at all with that fandom. They are, I'm just gonna say it, a lot of them are awful fucking human beings. And this guy, John Daly, is it John Daly? John? Did I get it
No,
wrong?
Robert Daly.
Robert Daly, thank you. I'm getting all the names wrong tonight. Is more of a Star Wars fan in this context than a Star Trek fan. This is one of those guys who would absolutely tell you that breaks canon.
Well, actually,
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 there can't be female leads in my show.
I didn't say actually on purpose because I love that
That's fair.
show, and I
You
don't
get no
want to tell
points.
either name.
But yeah, it is a great representation of toxicity in fandom, especially in Star Wars. And if you have a problem with that and you're listening, look inwards, my friend. I hate
Shots fired.
Oh, I will fire all of the shots. I hate Star Wars fans. I think they are the worst people in the world.
Oh.
No, obviously not the good ones. I have so many friends
Well,
in the
thank
Star Wars fandom.
you.
You gotta specify.
There's like I can name the ones I like on like 10 fingers. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Just like seriously, look no further than what's going on right now with the Acolyte, and you will find about 10,000 Robert Dalys. That's it.
I partially agree with Julian, but only because Star Trek fans are also the fucking worst. Because
Mm.
I don't know why this happened, but during the last couple episodes, the last season of Discovery, it was just all the fucking Star Trek and name only fans, like the ones that kept saying that, and how
Oh yeah.
Discovery is just the
Well,
fucking
look
worst,
at
and
the-
how
What are like what is the commonality between the Acolyte and Star Trek Discovery?
I know. I'm
What
aware.
is it?
I wonder.
I don't. Yeah.
Mm.
But
Black women leads.
I
Let's just say it out loud. Like
I don't
Yeah,
know.
sounds about white.
I I don't understand fans that just can't just let people like things. Don't yuck my yum, man. Like people like things. Whatever. Who cares? Like if you don't like it,
What is
don't
it?
watch. Don't fucking watch it. Right?
Don't freak my geek. What
Don't-
what is
whatever
it that
freaks
order-
your geek.
Yeah.
Whatever freaks your geeks.
I
I thought it was
s-
whatever tweaks your freak.
Whatever tweaks your freak.
that's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
one.
that's the one. I always like the don't yuck my yum. That because that's always how I feel. And like not only do you get the bad sci-fi fans in this from like Robert Daly, but you also get the fucking gamer bro at the end with Gamer 691.
King of
King of
space.
space.
so not only do you
King
get
of
to
fucking space.
you don't get to see just the bad sci-fi fans. You get to see the bad gamers, and that's why you turn off the lobbies in Call of Duty.
I'm gonna go one step further. I don't think they're bad fan or toxic fans. I think like what we call toxic fan is a very like nice way to cop out and not call them horrible human beings because that's what they are.
Racist and sexist.
They're
yes.
racist and they're sexist and misogynist, and they use fandom to express that because it's more accepted to call out shows saying that every time there's a black woman lead, it's bad writing, and to do it over and over again. Like, I'm the first one to criticize Discovery when there are things I don't like, but I'm not up in arms every time there's a new Star Trek or a new Star Wars show. And I feel fandoms, because the nerds are winning, we're becoming the main culture, right? And that's one big cultural shift, that nerdiness is the main culture, which is wild to say, right? But am I saying that because I'm too much in the nerd culture? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. So it's just a way for people to express their racism and their misogyny. And you know what? The problem is that we don't call them out as such. We say, oh, you're a toxic fan. Oh, you have a bad take on The Acolyte. Or you have a bad take on Star Trek Discovery. But at one point, like, I have no problem saying you're fucking racist. Like, just own it. No, I'm not racist. It's bad writing. And we're going around in circle with these toxic fans who are just fucking horrible human being. Daly is not a toxic fan. He's a psychopath.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, that's fair. No, that's
And-
yeah.
I think he has a beautiful knowledge of Star Trek or Space Fleet or whatever it's called. Like, he knows the language. He built that code. He created that mod, which is an incredible work. Like, imagine somebody actually doing that. Like, the uniforms, the ship, the technology, the planets, the stories, all that he made himself, which is artistically absolutely incredible. That guy knows his show, right? But he's a fucking psychopath. And that's the main problem. So, yeah, don't be a jerk.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a psychopath because I mean, if you actually like go through like what all of the characters did to, earn his wrath, like the receptionist, she was rude to him. She's rude to everybody. Like she's very like dispassionate. Like she does her job, but she just doesn't,
I mean, she's a
Mhm.
receptionist.
doesn't really
like-
care. Yeah. She's a
Oh,
receptionist. And I mean, like with Nanette,
Not wrong.
Nanette did absolutely anything wrong. Like the only thing she did was say that she didn't have a thing for him, which is exactly what you should be doing if it's your like third day on the job. Like you shouldn't be, she obviously did like him. I mean, not like romantically like him, but she hero worshipped him. She very much, she kind of like put up with the whole space fleet thing, but they seem to like actually kind of get along with each other. And he just got mad that she was able to talk to other people. It felt like that was just like the big problem. And I mean, no, but nothing is like bad enough that you could, justify what happened. And I think that Jimmy Simpson's character actually talks about it, and I think his name is actually James. That he like would have apologized for everything that he had done because he had done some terrible things until Daly like killed his kid.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's one more thing that I'd like to add after watching The Acolyte this week. If you are a fan, or as
We are like,
as
it's like
Giraffe
it's
has put it,
turning into like Star Wars stuff now.
but like I wanna go to what you're saying about like being psychopaths and just horrible human beings. If you call yourself a Star Wars fan and you watched episode 3 of The Acolyte this week, and I'm not spoiling anything for MC, but you watched that, and then you can go on YouTube or the internet forums that you go, or on the hellscape that is Twitter, and say that it breaks canon, or that it's an awful episode of television, or that there's too many women, or you can't birth people from the Force. Go watch episode 3 and episode 1, you fucking ding dong.
Oh my god, that makes me so angry.
Then
I guess spoiler.
shit, sorry, MC. You didn't hear that. Sorry, I went on a
That's
rant.
fine.
I'm in a mood about this. MC
It
has
only came out a
activated me.
day ago.
The guy is like at it.
Then Giraffe is absolutely right. Like, you are just a horrible human being because you can't go and like watch that episode and objectively say like you could say there's maybe some things you didn't enjoy about it, but like it is a beautiful and brilliant episode of television.
And
Like,
it's reinforcing the canon that's like
Yeah,
it
that
does-
already
Okay,
exists.
again, like I think we always like bend over backwards to try to accommodate and like to try to have a conversation. And I learned very young that you can say whatever you want, it's not gonna work because the refusal of the thing doesn't come
yeah.
from something logical.
Mhm.
It comes from bias, and also people will bend over backward to justify their own bias. Like Daly will tell you why he's mistreating these people
Oh,
because
yeah,
they did this
100%.
and they did that. Like he's very righteous in his own mind. I think he knows that what he's doing is not right, but at the same time he's justifying
He
it.
doesn't care.
And yeah, he doesn't care. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, is that at the point also, like, they do the right thing. There's no discussing with him. You need to get him out of the game. Get him out of the game. And I think we're always like trying to like talk online, and especially in this podcast where we're like, oh, but the canon is actually like good and like it's actually supporting canon. They don't care about that. If they had
Yeah.
done the same show, the exact same story with all white dudes and one Asian there and one talking black, they would be, it's the greatest Star Wars, right?
100%.
So
Yep.
it's again no need to discuss because it doesn't come from a logical place. It comes from a place of bias. And a
Yeah.
lot of people, it's actually implicit bias. They don't even realize that they're not liking it because of that. They're twisting over backward to make sure to explain why they don't like it, and it's not because of their biases, right? So yeah.
So
Anyway,
there
MC, what's
is
the
there
next
is something that
question?
there's something that I wanted to bring up in this, and I was not sure about bringing it up, but fuck it, Julian went on a rant, so I'm gonna go on a bit of one too. Uh, and that is I have a big conflict with this episode in terms of Daly, and I I'm of two minds of it, and that is I'm super glad that in all of the violations that Daly does, none of it, aside from like some fairly chaste kissing, none of it is sexual violations. Uh, but I do have some issues with the way they portrayed Daly because it very much kind of goes into a trope that exists, and that is the evil character who's so evil that they have no interest in romantic or sexual relationships. And as somebody who is ace, I really don't like that trope. I get hit with that um, evil tropes from two ways because I've got the ace and the bi thing going on. And if it's not one, it's the other. Um, and so, yeah, it's like part of me is like the only way that they could have not done that is if he had done horrible things with the people who are in the space fleet mod, and I'm really glad that they didn't do that. But the fact that it because it doesn't even feel like he's just socially immature and not able to deal with sex. It feels like he's just not interested in it.
See, I don't know about that because I thought that he was very into Nanette, like real life Nanette.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that he does what he does on the Callister is because he sees her with James and also says that he's not interested. Like, I think that he was maybe thinking that she was into him that first day. It was like, you're a genius. You're the one who created this. Like, I'm into you. And he got mixed messages. Like, I actually thought part of it was because of like
Okay.
a sexual, like he wanted to have a sexual relationship with her.
Yeah, I
I
thought that
think it's
too.
a way for him to make sure that they don't have sexual relationship
Yes,
between each other when
Okay.
he's gone.
exactly.
That's
What
how
I
I
thought as
read
well.
it.
Same,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
And
Okay.
I'm taking Eric's spot. I don't care.
That's cool.
It wasn't actually it wasn't
Oh,
actually
it
really
was
a
on the thing.
question.
Oh
It was
yeah,
on
it
the
was on
outline.
the everything. I was really I remember watching the first time I watched the episode. I was actually relieved there was no sexual violence
Same.
because I feel
Mhm.
it's such a trope that is always used as terror because it's during war that's how you terrorize people, sexual
Mhm.
abuse, right? And because also you're gonna get away with it most of the fucking time because that's how our society works. And the fact that he could totally have done it, right? But that was not happening, and they go out of their way to actually talk about that and to make it how they can't even like get the release of even like shitting, and that they have no
Mhm.
bodily function. It's like depriving them of also bodily autonomy in a
Mhm.
horrible way that I'd never thought about because I was like, when he kissed both women, I was like, oh, most probably he rapes them. And no, they went another way. And I think it was, for me, it was a relief because,
Mhm.
again, I didn't want to watch like Star Trek with people getting raped. Like, I don't think I could have gone through the episode, to be honest. Like, it's such violence that is like shown over and over again in shows. I was relieved they didn't go for it. And I don't think I think that he had sexual interest in them, but it was a way to punish them because they were not giving that to him, so they could not give that to anybody. That's how I read it. And also, I do thank whoever wrote the episode. I forgot who wrote it, because it kept the episode centered on something and made it maybe, for me at least, less traumatic. I'm
Okay.
cool with kids
I mean-
being thrown out of airlock, but I draw a line. Yeah.
No, I mean, like, I'm really glad that there was, no outward sexual violence. Like, that's why I'm conflicted about this, because I don't want that to happen, but also I don't love the whole, kind of demonizing. And I mean, yeah, maybe it is that, he's just not mature enough, but this is just how I, feel about some things. Yeah. We've talked all about this episode, and we've kind of gotten into the idea of wanting to see more of these characters. And it was announced back in March that next season in Black Mirror, which is coming in 2025, they're going to open with a direct sequel to this episode. So far, the only thing we've gotten is a brief synopsis, and that's Robert Daly is dead. But for the crew of the U.S.S. Callister, their problems are just beginning. So I think I kind of know how we all feel about this episode, but obviously Daly's gone, and it's not going to have the Space Fleet mod. So what do we think they're going to do?
Ooh, I have an answer. I actually have a good answer to this. Listen, they are in the actual Infinity world now, and it's not like people aren't going to see that there are people who look like Infinity employees inside the USS Callister. I think that is going to create a massive issue for the company. I think that if we're going with whatever I've learned about Black Mirror tonight, that Infinity and even maybe real life James might find a way to actually take advantage of that. I also think that just kind of what Giraffe is saying earlier about like taking advantage of non-playable characters and whether we do bad things to them or not, like that is a moral conundrum. These are sentient non-playable characters in Infinity, and I think that is something that they are going to cover as well. I'm stoked for this finale. Or not finale, sorry. I'm stoked for this
Sequel.
Sequel.
Yeah.
Eric.
I wonder, because how often do you know what the employees of video game companies look like? Right? You usually only know the like CEOs or the people that do the talks, right?
No, I mean, I'm talking specifically about the people that work there. And
they're gonna see them.
They're gonna see it.
Fair.
And
But
I
can
think
they see people? I'm not sure that in Infinity he has a special mod that get him in it, but I see that it'd be like Star Trek Online when you just see ships and don't see the other person. You just see like the name and you can talk to people.
But it could be
you
like
see
Star
what they
Trek
look
Online
like.
where you go down on planets
I
too,
think
right?
you
So,
can see real people.
I
in
think
this
you
game.
can see it because you can actually see, like in some of the shots at the office, that people are putting the thing on their head. So they are
Oh,
going
okay, yeah.
in, and that actually, and Eric, I think, can back me up on this. The way that the digital clones and everything are handled in this episode are very similar to stuff that happens in other episodes of Black Mirror, because
Yeah.
while Black Mirror is an anthology series, there are kind of like repeated
Threads.
things. And yeah, and I think actually specifically they were supposed to be cookies. It's just they
Yeah.
did not have the time to like cover that. And it's also supposed to be tied to grain technology from the entire history of you. But that's a lot of stuff to like actually fit in. So they decided to just throw in the line. It's a fucking gizmo.
The VR
Um,
headsets that they use in this episode are the ones they use in San Juniper as well. So there's so many different like threads that you keep on pulling in. The thing that makes me excited about the sequel, which also might lead to the miniseries that they've been talking about for years, is I think this is, if it's, I could see it going the Ready Player One route, where there's all these different types of fandoms in there, right? You don't just see the Star Trek one; you could see like all the other things. Maybe they'll do it properly, unlike Ready Player One. The most interesting interview that Charlie Brooker had recently is that he said that it's gonna pull from one of his other series that he writes for, which is Kunk on Earth. Um,
Oh, I love that show.
I don't know if you've ever seen that
I
insane
love that show so much.
Netflix
I would
show.
say it's the best archaeological show out there.
I don't disagree with you on that. So I don't know what he's gonna pull from that. But I don't know. It baffles me because every time I try and guess what they could even pull on Black Mirror, I
I
can't.
have a theory, and it's not bunnies.
Bunnies, damn it.
Yeah.
Damn
I
it,
knew you
damn
were
you.
coming for me. Are you done?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anybody watched Upload?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So
I
Is that
watch
the
all
movie
the,
with Robbie ML?
that's a TV show, yeah, with him.
yeah, that's a TV
Oh,
show
the
on
TV
Prime.
show.
Yeah.
I could see that too. Yeah. God.
So they're gonna investigate why he died, right? Because that's a big problem for the company. They're gonna find the Figmajig that he has, but none of the DNAs because she took everything. But they're gonna find she was here. They're gonna realize the thing he invented. And imagine the possibility for immortality. Like you're about to die and you can upload yourself in a game and be there forever.
Great. Yeah.
Because
You
I
need to
want
watch
to go
more
this
Black
way.
Mirror.
You really do need to watch more Black Mirror.
So upload is the funny version of this. Like it's a comedy with like asking questions. Like rich people can like upload and
Deep-
like have as many data as they want and have people visit them. But if you're poor, you only have 2 GB and you can be like awake only like
These are
an
questions that
hour a
have
month.
definitely been asked on Black Mirror in other episodes. So you are
Okay, so
yeah.
maybe they're not gonna go, but that's the first thing I thought about because I'm like, if you can upload my consciousness just by DNA, which is basically like impossible, because again,
Mhm.
my personality is not in my DNA. I don't know how many times we need to say that, but I'll say it again. My whole soul and my whole like the sum of my experiences in life. Anyway, looking at you, Star Trek, and I think there is an interesting possibility for immortal life in your fandom. I'll live forever in Star Trek.
I think they also said
Uh,
only a couple people are returning from this cast. So
No.
Oh.
that's gonna be interesting.
Oh, maybe they die. They learn
Oh,
they can
shit.
die. The opposite. They're not immortal anymore. They can die.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to guess that Jimmy Simpson is going to be one of the ones who's not returning since he kind of vaporized in this one, which really bums me out because I have a weird thing for him.
I don't think that's weird.
No.
I see that. I can
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no,
I was about to
definitely
say something
giraffe watch. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I don't know if
Go
I can
for
say
it.
it.
Just do it.
Say it.
Nope.
Say it.
Nope.
Say it.
You already
No,
broke the
say it.
chat.
God
I
damn
am
it.
I am not going to continue on until you say it.
No, because it can also. God damn it. Okay. Just
Right.
going with the whole goth thing. This is because, and this could be misconstrued as being completely horribly racist. Is it because he also plays a big black robot?
He plays a big black robot?
Oh my
On-
god, he
on
Dreadnought
Prodigy.
on Prodigy.
Oh, it's him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, no, that had nothing to do. I like his character. I mean, for very wrong reason. I like his character in Westworld. I think he has a very interesting.
He's so good
character.
on Westworld.
Oh yeah. He's so good in Westworld.
Mm.
He's good at playing slimy ass characters. Like,
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
1000% is in Westworld, but it's a
Mhm.
very low burn. Like he misdirects you like
Oh, yeah.
15,000 times, and you're like, oh my god, what? Like he's a very good actor.
Seems like
Um,
nothing to me.
But in terms of like like I actually had the same thought as Giraffe. Like the thing is Daly dies because like he's brained, he's like stuck in the
Brain dead.
game.
Yeah, yeah.
And he put a do not disturb sign on his door, and it's 10 days of holidays. So he's
gonna stop.
he's gonna starve.
And no
yeah.
one's gonna look for him.
Mm.
And this small spoiler for another Black Mirror episode, the DNA scanner and the lollipop actually turn up in the episode Black Museum,
Ah,
which
yeah.
is one we didn't mention in
How did we miss that?
the Strange New because a lot of people don't like Black Museum.
so
I am not
good.
one of them. I love Black Museum.
It's so
Uh,
neat. Giraffe, you'd like that one too.
It's not gonna give me depression.
yeah, well,
It will, yeah. For sure it will.
I like
Yeah.
that.
For some reason, when you guys keep saying Black Museum, it takes me into the Doctor Who episode, the one where we first introduced to River Song, the library,
The silence in
oh
libraries.
yeah,
the silent, yeah, that
yeah,
one.
which I'm pretty sure is just called the library.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that Nanette broke in, and how is she gonna feel? 'Cause she has like no idea like what all of this stuff is going on. Like she hero worshipped this guy, and she was blackmailed into breaking into his apartment,
Which is wild, by the
and
way.
then he dies.
Like, we didn't talk about it, but that woman, when they're like, we're gonna like release the pictures, I'd be like, fucking do it. Do it. I'm not gonna rob somebody. I'll sue you. I'll find you and I'll sue you.
Or she
But,
finds out who sends her the message. Oh.
I wonder if
That-
that's
wait-
not gonna be like, yeah, how she's gonna
I
find
could see
out
that.
what happened. Yeah. But yeah, she goes and like just breaks into that place and like steals stuff, and then what happens? That I think that's an interesting sequel. It's like I want to know in the real life the
Yeah.
consequences of him. How long they're gonna take to like find out that he died, or she comes back because she feels bad and like
Mhm.
finds him. I don't know, something like this. But there's like interesting question marks.
There's a lot of stuff that they can cover. And I mean, yes, a lot of it has been covered in other Black Mirror episodes, but it's not like Black Mirror hasn't repeated itself a lot. And
Mhm.
especially with the concept of the cookies, which
Yeah.
is definitely what's going on here. I personally, even though he was already in the episode Beyond the Sea, I want Aaron Paul to have a larger role in the next
He was so
one
good at this one.
because he was so good in this small part.
Or-
So I think we can move on to our final thoughts at this point.
I
Are
always
we
do
going
the
backwards?
reverse order. Go Giraffe.
Okay, Giraffe.
Oh, I like the episode. I hope they do another one. I hope it's as good, and I hope it questions fandoms. I like episodes who question fandoms, like All Words a Stage questions fandoms. I think it's a good evil pendant of All Words a Stage.
Mm.
I'm
All
sorry,
right.
Aaron.
Interesting.
But like when you're a good person and you become a fan, and when you're a fucking psychopath and you become a fan,
Yeah.
and somehow we're all part of the same group, which is wild. So yeah, no, I like if there are other episodes like questioning fandoms, I'm interested.
Yeah.
Eric.
I love this episode. I love Black Mirror. I want Aaron Paul to have a bigger role next time. Exactly. I want maybe Kirsten Dunst also shows up. Looking, she does show up
Oh,
in this
yeah.
episode too.
She
So,
is, yeah.
she's
She's one of the employees.
I don't know.
Wait, Kirsten Dunst in this episode?
Yes, she's
Yeah.
randomly one of the Callister employees.
Well, not randomly. She's married to Jesse Plemons.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I meant like she's randomly in there. I
I have to watch this episode again.
I hope that the sequel of this, like the single episode, actually goes off to the. They were talking about a three or four episode miniseries for this to continue it. So I would love to just see this world continue and all Black Mirror. Just bring me more. Give it all.
I want to watch
Julian.
more Black Mirror. That's my answer. I wanna
Yeah.
watch more
Start
Black
from the
Mirror.
beginning.
Yeah.
That's it.
Go
It's
to the
gonna
end.
make you so mad.
Yeah, I know, but I like getting mad sometimes.
Are you gonna watch
If
about the
you
first
want-
episode tonight? Do it. Watch it.
No, I'm no. God, no,
Don't
not
watch
tonight.
it.
Not before. I'm already. They know I'm already depressed about shit. I can't. Do it tonight.
yeah, no, I mean, and especially that first episode is not a great
Watch-
one to watch.
Yeah.
Watch
If I
San
didn't have to, if I didn't have to go to work in the morning, I would. But I can't. I can't do that.
Watch
I have to
San
go to work.
Junipero with your wife.
Okay, we'll do.
Yeah. Well, at some point when you decide to watch, if you want to tell me about it, I will totally watch an episode with you over chat because I will watch it Black Mirror at any time.
Yep.
So for me, yeah, this episode has grown on me over the years and many watches of it, and I just really appreciate it a lot more now, and I'm looking forward to a sequel. I think that it could play off a video games. I think it could play off stuff already established in Black Mirror, or it could also play off the fact that apparently the Infinity World kind of looks like Star Trek Enterprise. Because I mean, check out those uniforms that they wear.
Made me think of The Expanse, personally.
It made me think of the Kelvin verse.
All of it.
How?
How the Kelvin verse?
The lens flares for one?
Okay,
but
yeah,
the uniforms.
that's fair.
Oh,
They had
are we
the
talking about
uniforms.
the
The
Callister
uniforms.
uniforms or the after they get back into the real world?
the
uniforms?
Infinity uniforms?
Oh yeah, no, the whole thing makes me think the Kelvin verse.
No.
Am I the
The
only
Yeah,
one
no,
that-
I thought that too. I
No,
thought
they
the
did have
uniform-
lens flares. Yeah.
No, I thought for the uniforms too, because they had
The jumpsuit uniform make you
but,
think of the.
but they had
the
their
Kelvin
symbol
verse?
in it as well, like the.
Well, the Callister ones did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
those
okay,
did.
the Callister one,
Yeah.
yes, but
But
not
no,
the
but like
Infinity one.
no, but the bridge and the lens flares and the way that they shot it kind of on a diagonal was very JJ and very Kelvinverse. I was like, oh hey, it's the Kelvinverse. How am I the one making Kelvinverse references tonight?
Because
I
we were
mean,
talking about
they
the
did have lens flare.
uniforms.
Yeah,
We were talking about the uniforms, the jumpsuits.
yeah, but the Callister ones also made me think of the Kelvinverse. And Stranger
Okay,
Worlds.
we're talking about the jumpsuits.
Okay, we're just gonna move on to subspace to poll and mailbag.
I don't have a Callister soundbite. I'll add one later.
Who wants to take the to poll?
I'll do it. We asked Trek Twitter what they thought about U.S.S. Callister, and this is what they had to say. 56% said, just fucking go. 11% said, you're a fucking genius. 28% said, you get used to it. And 5% said, eternal waking nightmare.
Oh.
I mean, I can understand how this can be people like other stuff. I'll be like, who hurt you? This, it's like I can understand how this might
Yeah.
not be enjoyable.
How this could hurt you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Giraffe, do you want to read Jessica's mailbag?
Yes, Jesco wrote, what a wild ride that episode is. Suddenly kept me on my toes, and unfortunately was very realistic in many aspects of crappy people you sometimes encounter in your life. Always love when the true villain gets their comeuppance. Comeuppance. I'm learning new words. Thank you, Jesco. Comeuppance in the end. And man, what an asshole. Every time I thought it was the worst, somehow it got even more terrible. While I know the rest isn't Trek themed, I'm now interested in exploring more of this series.
Okay, and I'll read Troubles. Trouble wrote, I think I watched this episode more than any other Black Mirror episode. Normally, Black Mirror is all about dark and twisty, but this episode was more of a comfort watch for nostalgia purposes. I liked how every time I watched it, I found another thing that connected to Star Trek and created tiny theories and tangents I wanted to share with others. This show is normally about technology's impact on society, but this episode felt like it was more focused on the idea of people in power trying to play God and what little people can do to take it back. This episode has reignited my love of this show and definitely given me a reason to start watching the series again. And Julian, can you take us home with Emmy Rawlights?
Absolutely. Who wrote, I do not want to defend a guy who spaces children out of airlocks, but the episode makes you see how Daly turned to the VR world for escape after being undervalued in the real world. It's why games like Grand Theft Auto are so popular. I wouldn't be surprised if someone ran a U.S.S. Callister style program in one of Quark's hollow suites.
You mean Reg Barkley?
You mean Reg Barkley? Yes.
So that's it. That's our Black Mirror episode. So for Julian, for Eric, for Giraffe, and myself, go watch Black Mirror. Sarcastic Vulcan salutes.
Yeah. Bye.
Thanks for beaming into our podcast today. If you want to keep the hailing frequencies open, you can subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. Like what you hear? Put in a good word with Starfleet and leave us a 5-star review.